Joining us on Practical 365 today is Kamal Janardhan. Thank you for joining us on the show, Kamal. How are you?
I am well, thank you, Steve.
And Tony and Paul need no introduction as they're part of Practical 365. But for those that don't know you, do you want to give us a quick introduction?
Absolutely, my pleasure. So I'm Kamal Janardhan. I'm the general manager for Viva Insights as part of our new employee experience platform. And I am thrilled to talk about the ways that we're bringing insights for individuals, managers, and leaders to make their life better, to be their best selves. With you, Steve.
So we've got a few questions for you today. So I'm going to go to Paul first, who is quite interested in how this compares to some of the things that we've already seen on the user side in Insights and MyAnalytics. Paul.
Yeah, so Kamal, I'm wondering with Viva Insights, which I like so far, I find it useful, and the insights, at least for me, have been actionable, which is sort of my first test for whether this actually is going to make my life better. But we also have Outlook Insights, we have MyAnalytics, we have various other analytics features that are exposed to different parts of the ecosystem. Do they all stay? Or are we going to be in a world where we have to do, like to do versus planner versus other types of tasks? Or do you have a sort of strategy to knit these things together into a single unified whole?
Yeah, so as we all know, a lot has changed in the last year. And so one thing that's clear is that flexible work is here to stay. So we've seen research from Microsoft Work Trend that over 80% of managers say they expect more flexible work from home policies, and more than 70% of employees say they expect to take advantage of these. And so these capabilities that allow you to work better, that have always been there in our product around My Analytics, Workplace Analytics, they are now becoming even more essential and necessary, and they need to be evolved to answer the top concern around employee well-being for business leaders. So the announcement of Microsoft Viva last month was the first major step for a new kind of platform that was designed to both help enable that great employee experience from wherever you work and integrate the apps and tools that employees already use. So in that context, My Analytics and Workplace Analytics are part of that employee experience platform. So with these new well-being and productivity experiences in Microsoft Teams, you can see that Viva Insights will over time bring those capabilities under that single umbrella. And all your existing investments in that value will still be served. The AI platform that drives and enables those capabilities will be used now to drive and serve the capabilities within Microsoft Teams, because with the current remote work world that we live in, Microsoft Teams is where an enormous number of our users are in the flow of work and where they need those experiences and value.
Okay, thank you. So let me play part of that back. If you're not using Teams, too bad. You should be. I think that's what I heard, is that the focus for these capabilities is increasingly going to move for Teams as the magic window that exposes this data. I was just going to say, for organizations that haven't adopted Teams fully yet, where does that leave them?
So it's an and, not an or. What we're finding is that the existing capabilities we have within Outlook, the email that comes to you for your insights, for your daily work, as well as your monthly reflections, all of those will still be available and are still a key way that our users will get their well-being and productivity assistance. However, we recognize the need to add that within the Teams canvas, because our vision and goal is to be where the user lives and in the flow of work. And that is where an enormous number of our users live today and where they need help with remote work and hybrid capabilities. So the and, not the or, is the key crux of that point.
Great, I like it. Thank you.
So we're going to talk a bit more about the back end of this and how managers get access to stuff. And I thought Tony would be great to give us a bit of an overview, because this has been something of interest to him over the last few years, hasn't it?
Just a little bit. I mean, I've been tracking this since Microsoft started to work in this area around 2015, and thereabouts. I mean, over the years, I've had many discussions with engineers working on insights from the earliest days, when the only data that was available were calendar events and email in exchange. That's where the data came from. And now there's an awful lot of graph information. But one of the things that strikes me is that, or a couple of things that strike me, is that firstly, there's an awful lot of information being gathered. And the second thing is, I'm just wondering, is even though it's such a lot of information that's being gathered, is it enough to accurately represent what people actually do? And I'll give you a for example. A lot of people, as you say, are working at home and all the rest of it. You could spend 6 or 7 hours at home working on a single document or a single presentation. I mean, I do this all the time myself, but then I get a focus time report that tells me, wow, you didn't do an awful lot this week because you had a lot of time to focus. Clearly you weren't busy at all. So I guess the question is, how accurate is this information really in terms of representing what people do? And if it's not all that accurate because it misses out large chunks of their working life, how valuable is it to managers, and how's Microsoft going to close that gap?
It's a great question. So the intent and the aspiration is to give you a picture of the trends, both individual and organizationally, that will allow you to then assess and compare to your either broad business outcomes, revenue goals, or personal outcomes. Are you spending time, Tony, on the project that's most important to you and making traction on that? We've done a set of research over the last 3 years, and this has been validated with our customer co-innovation and our customer proof points. And what that essentially points to is the highest order bit to allow you to assess what you need to change or where you need to add or shift your investment is not accuracy and completeness of the data, but it is the right trending. And so we essentially did a set of side-by-sides with, if you have partial data and you look at this entire view, what are the conclusions you draw where if you add that data in, because the world of majority still lives in the email, the Teams canvas, this is where a lot of their time is spent, we found that to be valuable and useful. That said, it is always good to get additional data sets and to complete that whole view and get additional insights. But the current signal that we're getting from our customers and our users is that the trending information, which has not been available at all today, is a key insight inflection point that allows them to make certain assessments.
Okay, now let me just come back to you on that, because I'll give you a trend that is developing and has developed over the last 4 years, which is could affect those trend lines, and that is that the amount of email that people receive it may be going up slightly, but the actual email that they are getting, the messages that they're getting, there's a whole pile of notification messages that mean absolutely nothing to them, yet they all seem to be as important as the message from the CEO saying, please go and do something about this very important project. So, you know, if you just take data, it's just numbers of messages or numbers sent or number of meetings attended or all that kind of thing, without context, without understanding what really happens, it's really not all that valuable, is it?
It sounds like Tony's setting you up to sell the whole value of the suite and how it ties things together.
No, but I'm just reflecting what I've seen, you know, and I just, even if I look at my own mailbox and I look at what's in my inbox and I see all the rubbish that arrives there, that I absolutely, you know, in the old days, you know, let's say when you were working on Exchange, most of the messages that appeared in people's mailboxes were probably reasonably interesting and needed an action, most of them. Now I look at the messages and I find the majority of them are auto-generated by this system or that system. SharePoint telling me that something is done, that Teams telling me that somebody has mentioned me in a conversation or whatnot.
So the first thing I'll call out over there is one of the key goals we do have, and you actually called it out, is to surface what matters, right? One of the gifts of a connected world is that we have a enormous increase in awareness of what's happening, right? And you have all this new information available to you. One of the challenges of that world is then finding out what is the most important to look at. And so one of the daily mails that you get today actually tells you what are the tasks that matter. If I get a whole series of notifications, and I think I'll answer this and then we'll go to the next question, Steve. But the need to know what matters the most, out of the set of things that come to me is absolutely one of the aspirations and the goals we have. And surfacing up to you the tasks that matter from your particular meeting or from an important person. If I configure Tony as a person who's important for me to get signals from, those will then surface up to the top and tell me, there's a task here you had with Tony. And so absolutely, the AI model and the data set allows us to emphasize the things that matter. And then do we have work to do to ensure that the rest of the suite and the rest of the system reduces the noise and increases the signal? Absolutely. And that is work we continue to do as the volume of data and digital exhaust just explodes in our faces in the last decade.
So the last thing I wanted to ask about, and this came directly from speaking to customers about the Viva suite and then Insights, and customers who I'm speaking to who are looking at Viva and saying, right, is this something we can really use? They're the kind of customers who have for the last year been thinking very, very hard about how they can solve these kind of challenges. And one of the people that was going to come to learn about Viva Insights has had two jobs. His second job that he'd taken on himself was the employee wellbeing aspects, and they'd been creating their own surveys rather than buying in a third-party platform to understand employee sentiment, how people are feeling, and their question was, can I bring that in? Do I have to buy a third-party product? Or that work I've already done, can I take that along and feed it into this system? And that goes across a lot of the Viva pieces, but in particular for the great things that we've seen where there's a smiley face to click, or there's the links to wellbeing resources, mindfulness training. Do you need to buy a third-party product, or can an org plug their own stuff in?
Yeah, so one of the things that makes Viva and Viva Insights particularly a shared effort around employee experience is the fact that it's intended to be an open and extensible platform. And an extensible platform in a couple of ways. One is when you think about our goal to create enriched time, so book focus time, and then allow you to then couple that focus time with a meditation or content from Headspace to allow you to be in the right mindset for deep work. Another type of integration as part of our partner ecosystem is also ensuring that you can bring third-party data sets and view them side by side along with the organizational insights that we provide. And so you have the capability today with our Power BI connector to create a Power BI dashboard that allows you to take engagement survey data and see side by side, this particular part of my organization has this much time for deep work and this many long and large meetings. And then side by side, see a view of what is the survey data or employee engagement sentiment data for that same team. And that side by side allows a leader to then make an assessment. And we think that integration as part of the platform is incredibly important for the employee experience. And so we announced a part of that today with Glint, when we actually shared that at the Viva launch, where you can actually view that sentiment data. And that capability does exist in the product, and customers can include their own survey data along with collaboration data in their analysis. And we're just going to keep making that more automated and seamless so that that side-by-side can lead to the conclusions and assessments that leaders and teams typically want to do.
That sounds pretty good. As long as this team they can bring in those smiley faces to click themselves without having to buy something else to add on. I think that'll be the key for some organisations. The idea that they if they've tried it today and went, maybe all the rest will come. If they get that sort of view without having to buy several products, they'll be very excited. Even if I guess that means they've got to do a bit of work to integrate it. Have I interpreted that right, or are they going to have to buy something?
Yeah, so it's a great point. I'll speak for the ones that we already have out there, which is a set of Headspace content, for example, will be included in the suite. Now, I will not speak for all of our partners. We, Microsoft, will always give you the ability, right, to integrate that content and bring it in. And we will aspire to make sure that that is available to our users and customers. The degree and the tiering to that is kind of a much broader statement that will take, I would want to think about the specific partner and have a conversation with them.
thank you for joining us on the show today. We've really appreciated your time.
Yes,
Thanks
indeed.
for being a good sport.
It was a pleasure.